If you're looking for writing inspiration, you're going to want to stick around because today we have some brand new writing music. We're going to do 2 creative writing sprints, and we're really going to talk about how do you find writing inspiration when life's really getting you down. Welcome to Kauffman Writes. I'm Kauffman, and this is my daily creative writing live stream to help make you a better writer and help get you inspired so that way you can really tell the story that's in your heart. And let's make it more fun. We're going to start off with our first creative writing sprint of the day. We're going to be doing 2 writing sprints of the day. All right, so I'm going to cue it up. I have my usual story, The Last Scarecrow, which I'm working on. And we're going to tee up the music. Now, before I hop into my writing sprint, I always feel like I have to reread the last section that I just wrote to get myself into it. So with where I had left off at, if you're just hopping into the live stream right now, feel free to join along if you need to get some writing done, or you can watch me as I do my writing and I'll write vicariously for the both of us. All right, so last scarecrow, I'm my scarecrow. He is trapped in a pit with a bunch of strange creatures, and he's met 2 brand new creatures, a grizzly bear named Gore and a snake named Stretch. Now, him and his companions have been searching for this rabbit for a rabbit creature for a very long time that has an object that they need to kill the bad guy. And the rabbit basically told the scarecrow to go F himself. That's basically what happened. So we just had that fun little encounter, and this is where we're at. How'd it go? Gore questioned. He's still alive, Stretch hissed. Something terrible happened to him, the last scarecrow sighed. It's going to be harder than I thought to convince him to help us. The only thing you'll convince him of is to slice off your head. The way he plays with that dagger, something taught him, Stretch stated almost as an afterthought. Gore asked, what do you need his help with, Scarecrow? The Scarecrow turned to Gore abruptly, looking him dead in those graying blue grizzly eyes. I'll tell you, but I must know. Why are you 2 being so nice to me? Nearly every creature we've come across has wanted to kill me, eat me. Nearly every creature we've come across has wanted to control us, control us, eat us, has wanted to control, eat, or kill us. Exactly, Gore started. I might be a fool, but there's something different about you, Scarecrow. I see it. And Stretch sees it. Bah, he's going to die, Stretch interrupted. Gore leaned in and whispered, he might be a snake, but he's got the heart of a bear. I heard that, Stretch raised up to their height and hissed. I disagree. I have the heart of a cobra. Gore chuckled. The last scarecrow found himself amused by the duo, so he began. It's a long story. Either of you ever heard of the graveyard of the last? Out of nowhere, Gore swung one of his paws and punched him squarely in the face. The last scarecrow stumbled back, shocked and confused. However, before he could retaliate, the shafts of sunlight from above were cut off, and the entire pit, and they were left in darkness. And cut off, and they were left in the dark. A loud, gruff voice echoed down in the pit. Prisoners, you have been called. We depart now. Before the last scarecrow had time to react, he heard scuffling nearby, and something clasped around his neck. When he attempted to stand, his entire body screamed out in pain, as if he were on fire. The thought of fire was his last thought. Were his last thoughts. Oh, I see. The thought of fire was his last thoughts as he lost consciousness and passed out. Excellent. So we're going to come back to the scarecrow. Now let me cue up the music. By the way, I have some brand new writing music we're listening to today. by one of our very own Atomic Elf. So Atomic Elf, if you end up if you're here in the stream or you end up dropping by today, thanks for the music vibe. Let's I haven't listened to it yet, so let's see how it goes. All right, 20-minute sprint, and it's time right now. Hey, what's up, Atomic? Welcome to the chat. Thank you so much, my man. I appreciate you. I like totally pieced all the music together into a couple clips, so that way I could play it all back to back. Hey, what's up, Stephanie? Welcome to the stream. We got some new music today. Let me know what you think. All right. Excellent. Good little writing sprint. Perfect. All right. It's always nice being able to get some good writing in. Let's pull up our break. We're going to take a 10-minute break before we hop back into writing sprint number 2. That was exciting. I was going back and forth on whether or not I wanted the the pixie to remember how to fly. I went over a couple of different ideas. I'm like, all right, do I want something to save her? Do I want her to save herself? I think that moment's going to be very important. I've been trying to think of how do I leverage her character development and what portion of her remembering certain things is her action, and then what certain like things that she remembers is a result of other things that happen in the world. So, but I think this creates a little bit more of a powerful moment. And now we're going to, well, I'll get to explore the next part. What what happens next with her? All right, so that was fun. Let's see if you're in the live stream right now. Did you get any? How's your writing coming along? Working on anything fun right now, or in general? I would love to hear it in the comments. All right. Oh, by the way, the music was fire. Atomic. Nice music. I felt like it was some nice, like, chill fantasy vibe. Very, very fitting. I was, like, totally channeling that, like, the piano and the different instrumentals into her personality as she's kinda, like, remembering during that fall. So that was actually super cool. Thank you. Alright. So what are the most common struggles for new writers? I've been thinking about this, and I was really asking myself, like, what are things that new writers deal with? What are problems that I dealt with when I was a new writer? And I figured this would be a good time to just chat about a couple things. Let's see. You're still working on plotting. Plotting is can be such an endeavor. It can be really fun. It's not. Are you usually the type who you like have to outline everything in your story before you get started or before you hop into it? That's usually something that I'll do that sometimes. I feel like lately, especially with this story, I started off as a free write and then I ended up just going, I want to say I got about 15 pages into it. And then I went back and then I outlined. And then I ended up with, let's say I have my outline on this other page. Where is it? Yeah. I don't know if you're still seeing this. Let me see. Oh, connection unstable. Okay, yeah. Sometimes the thing connects. I got glitchy for a second. But yeah, so I think I plotted out 31 chapters for this story, but for every like one chapter that I had like planned, there I've added now like 2 to 3 additional chapters of kind of character development, world building. I think this story in general is probably going to come out to pretty close to like a 50 chapters is my guess. I'm at 37,000 words. Yeah, I'll probably be at like 90. I'm guessing 80 to 90,000 based on the trajectory. I'm getting close to the midpoint. We're kind of at the beginning of this series of obstacles. It's going to take our these heroes to the midpoint. Awesome. Yeah, sometimes Sometimes it does that. It's kinda hard to tell with, the streaming platform that I'm using, whether or not it's my internet or whether or not it's the servers. So, let's see. Historically, I've written sporadically in inspired moments, so focusing on story structure feels good. It really does. I It's interesting. So, like, as we're kinda talking about the 2 different styles of writing and inspiration, I I get different types of inspiration from both styles of writing. When I'm just sitting down for a free write or I'm just, like, hopping into something without a plan, I get inspired by having the fun of, like, "Oh, what could come out next? What's, like, the thing that might happen?" Whether or not it's, like, super cool or it sucks or it could be somewhere in between. And I think that's part of the fun of that type of writing. But then other times when I'm like outlining and I've like planned out, I think the fun of it is like, okay, well, I really want to get to this point now because I really want to see, does this point actually flesh out and does it come together like I envision it, or is it going to be something else altogether? I was reading someone's comment earlier and they're like, yeah, one of the best parts of a story is, when you come up with an idea and then the characters start writing themselves and suddenly the villages are dead and you have a demon that's writing out all the rest of your story. It's like, yes, how often do you get into your story and, it starts writing itself? I feel like that always starts happening for me. Once I get to, like, the 70% of the point mark in a story, I feel like the characters are just, like, they're like they have their own story that they wanna tell. It kinda just takes over for me. But so what are common struggles for new writers? I would say a lot of the times it can be hard to get inspired. It can definitely be hard to find inspiration when you're super busy, you're dealing with life struggles, or you're dealing with just different things. Finding inspiration can be hard. It's easy to start things. I would know from experience, I spent so many years why I would start so many different projects, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with doing different projects. But I think the challenge for me was I would start a lot of different projects, but then I wouldn't finish them. So then what happens is then I built up over time this just unending spiral catalog of all these unfinished projects. And while that's not necessarily a bad thing, if you're someone who's writing for yourself, like that's success. If you're someone who is wanting to get published, that just makes it a little challenging. Or if you have a script and you want it to get optioned. So I think finishing things can be a little difficult because it's a process and it takes consistency and accountability to get from the midpoint to the end. And it's easier for us when we get super inspired by something fun and we start writing it down, we start the plotting, we start the writing, but then the amount of work it takes for the second draft and like editing and getting it to publishing, that can be time consuming. That can be a little bit of a struggle sometimes. I am always of the mindset, make it easy. Make the writing process as easy as possible for you. If sitting down and writing consistently is a struggle, then just plan on writing 30 minutes once or twice a week. And then once you've done that consistently for a few weeks, then you can always write more. If life's been like super crazy and you're dealing with health problems and you're dealing with family struggles, then maybe you need to take a break for a week or two. Like that's not a bad thing at all. It's if you've been writing consistently for a period of time and then life happens, or let's say you're a student and suddenly like you have all your finals you have to deal with. Like that's all right. But if you take a break, be intentional with your break. Like, hey, you know what? Don't have time to write right now. I'm going to take a break for 2 weeks. I suggest go onto your phone, set a notification for 2 weeks from now with the timer of plan out next story. And then that way, in 2 weeks, when you've kind of given yourself time to really like focus on life, then you can come back to it because the writing process can be so much fun. We end up making it difficult on ourselves. And that's what makes it harder for a lot of new writers. Let's see, I think the biggest one related to inspiration is consistency. Yeah, consistency, I would agree with that. In all the writers groups that I've been a part of over the years, I've seen a lot of writers who have some really great work, but a lot of the times I think it was staying consistent with the process. It's like it can be really easy to go through social media, YouTube, videos, and get inspired by things that are happening, get inspired by music, by people, by influencers, by the books we read, the TV shows we watch. And that's a great thing. Let me just like reiterate, like that's a really great thing. Use your inspiration. But then it's like, how do we make it a consistent habit? And my goal is just make it easy. Make the writing process easier for yourself. If for me, something that I struggled with was I would try to make things like way too difficult. And I would like so I had to plan things out. I was a perfectionist. I had to do like a million things to get the story to the end. And then I would never get there because I was just making it too hard on myself. And I think if you're getting yourself into an easier routine, that can be a success. Or finding like writing groups, finding online writing groups are great. Then you can join a writing community online and write, or you can learn more about writing and kind of get yourself into that inspired mindset. The the I think something that I always like to reiterate is what's that feeling when you're in the middle of creating that idea, when you're like developing your character or the story or like that experience you had or just something, keep that feeling in mind. That is the fun part of writing. And if you can, make that a part of your consistent process every single time you sit down to write, that's going to reinforce positively the writing process for you. That's my recommendation, especially for new writers. Have fun with it. If writing becomes a chore, then we put it off and then our stories never get finished. All right. So we'll come back to some new we'll come back to some more writing struggles in just a bit. Because it is time for let's see. It is time for daily writing sprint number 2. All right, and our timer was up, so I'm gonna reset our 20-minute timer. I am eager to see what I end up doing with my Pixie. Let's see. I'm going to play the second playlist. I split a bunch of the songs you gave me, Atomic, into just a couple different mixes to make it easier for me to upload to this program. So we're gonna do this. We're gonna go into the second playlist. We'll see what vibes we get. And it's time to right now, 20 minutes on the clock.
In the echo of the dawn, a melody reborn, harmony unfolding, a symphony untorn. Through the shadows of the night, we find our way. Resonance of renewal, a brighter day. Awakening the spirit, a chorus of the soul. Every note a promise, a journey to unfold. In the cadence of the heart, redemption's sweet embrace. Resonance of renewal in every note we trace. nostalgia binds in the rhythm of our roots, where echoes softly roam. Sonic Odyssey, a journey back to our own, dancing through the sonorous waves we've known. Harmonic homecoming, where memories are sown. In the symphony of echoes, where we find our way. Sonic Odyssey, where past and present sway. Among the notes of yesteryear, familiar and pure. Harmonic homecoming, where echoes endure. In the whispers of the wind, a familiar tune. Sonic Odyssey, beneath the silver moon. Dancing through the sonorous waves we've known. Harmonic homecoming, where memories are sown. In the symphony of echoes, where we find our way. Sonic Odyssey, where past and
Hey, what's up, son? Welcome to the stream. We're just getting through our second writing sprint of the day. Hope you've gotten in some cool writing lately.
dancing through the sonorous waves we've known. Harmonic homecoming, where memories are sown. In the symphony of echoes, where we find our way. Sonic Odyssey, where past and present sway.
Yeah, I think I'm like, I think I'm kind of stumped actually. This part, I know I'm near the end of this writing sprint, but I'm trying to think of like, I don't know where I want her to go next. Let's see, not as of late. Been too busy editing someone's work and cover designs. Oh, that's super cool. That reminds me. I need to check out your yeah. Let's see, Stumped How. You know what? I've just been. Let's see. Let me drop the music. Yeah, so I had my characters get split up, and this is this is the second chapter where I've done the Pixie's point of view. And what options does she have? So she's by herself. She's been separated from the Scarecrow, and I'm trying to think of what I want to have be accomplished. Like, she's going to, I know, reconnect with the Scarecrow and the Crow back at the Coliseum that's coming up, where that's going to be the next like major point of the story. But I'm trying to think of like, what do I want her to accomplish in this intermediary time? And I'm not sure if I want her to have a solo journey or if I want to have her meet some new characters, create some supporting characters for her, or for something to happen to her. And I can't, I'm not quite sure. I feel like something needs to happen to her, and I think that's what I'm trying to like feel my way through now. She's at the bottom of this canyon. They basically the pixie was with the scarecrow at the top of a canyon. They went to go help somebody who was calling out for help. And when they reached out to grab the hand of some monkey creature who was hanging off the ledge, the monkey pulled them over the ledge. So that sent them falling towards the bottom of the canyon. Some creatures grabbed the scarecrow and threw him in like a pit. So I'm trying to think of like what, like I know how the scarecrow is going to get to the Colosseum because he's now a prisoner, but I'm trying to think of like what do I want her? Take her through more trials. That's not a bad that's not a bad idea. Hmm. I'm like, what as I'm thinking aloud, like what types of trials would really develop her character the most effectively? Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I could you see, I like that idea because I think she does need to go through some sort of trial. I think what I'm trying to decide between is whether or not the trial should result in her remembering something about herself, or if it should result in her remembering how to fly. And I think that's what like kind of keep going back and forth. Hey, what's up, Comet? Welcome to the stream. Welcome. We just wrapped up our second writing sprint. I'm actually just kind of like brainstorming right now. I was kind of stuck at this one part in my story, and I was trying to think of like what do I want? Where do I want to go next? I have this pixie character, Pebble, who's kind of been separated from from the other heroes. And I'm trying to decide of like what type of trial I want to take her through, or like what I want to happen to her. Like I know all the characters are going to end up at this Coliseum, which is the next major story point, but I'm trying to really decide like what do I want to do with her in between? And that's kind of what I'm going between. But welcome. If have you been able to get any writing done lately? I'm always curious if many of you writers out there are actually being able to like get writing done, or if you're more in like different stages of the process. I feel like everyone's kind of working on a different story and at a different pace. Well, I'm brainstorming. I know one of the struggles or one of the things that we were talking about a little earlier was struggles that new writers deal with. If there's any struggles that like you've been dealing with as a writer, like definitely feel free to drop them in the comments. So I know earlier we were talking about like inspiration and consistency was one that a lot of new writers struggle with. I know something that I was talking about was dealing with like having trouble like finishing things. I know that used to be a huge problem of mine. Let's see what's another one. Word choice. Word choice is another common thing I see with a lot of new writers, and that's actually an easier one to fix too. Now, sometimes like when you're still learning like your style and like what works for you, it's easy to repeat the same thing in a paragraph and be like, he said this, he said this, he said this, and he said this. But it's really comes down to just like learning, increasing your vocabulary and learning other words. And now we live in such a day and age where if you're trying to think of like, all right, what's another word to say for he? You literally just go Google it and you'll get like 30, 40 different word options. And I think you can also ask yourself like, is there ways that I can reword or I can say this sentence differently? Let's see. Where's something? And like since I'm in my rough draft, I kind of go back and forth on if I on really the uniqueness of the sentence structure, because I know with the rough draft for me personally, my goal is to get it out. Some sentences are going to sound great because they'll be unique, and others are just going to sound super repetitive. And that's all right because I know my goal with the rough draft is to get to the end and tell the story that I want to tell, because my second draft is going to allow me to focus more on structure and clarity. Yeah, but I think practicing word choice is a really good one. Let's see. If I were to say the if I were to use a sentence, actually, I'll pull this up just as a good practice. So I had the character here. She said, "Stupid scarecrow," she muttered. Of course, he was nowhere in sight. Neither was the bird. That didn't bode well for her. If I was struggling with like trying to word that, something I might have originally said would have been like, "The pixie said, 'Stupid scarecrow.'" This wasn't going to bode well for her. Sometimes adding interiority, I think that's actually a really good practice as well. It's how do you balance dialogue using interiority, meaning like what does the character think? And then actions. What do the characters do? What do the characters have fun interacting with the world? That's another good thing too to practice and be aware of. Let me think. What are other common struggles that I've seen with new writers? Getting stuff published. I've seen that. A lot of writers struggle with getting their work out into the world. And I think sometimes I would say it's 50-50. I would say half the time it's a mix of fear of us actually like putting stuff out. And then the other half the time it's not really being aware of the process. And sometimes we're just busy with life and people just don't really have time to write a 100,000 word book and then get out there and go through the publishing. And then you have to market it if you want people to buy it. And like, that's a process. Let's see, some authors even refer to that as the zero draft, which helps let go of the inner critic. Interesting. That's actually a really interesting term, the zero draft, which helps let go of the inner critic. And I'm actually going to Google that. That's an interesting term, zero draft. Zero draft is your first attempt to assemble thoughts related to your research topic or question. What is zero order draft? Okay, so one that flows as a write. Okay, so it's more focused on less structure and it's more just getting your thoughts out. That's actually not a bad idea. And it's like, once again, like if you're a new writer out there and you're struggling with any part of the writing process, just figure out how to make it easier for yourself. Just because it's difficult doesn't mean that it can't be fun. And I think that's just remember that. Like remember like what's the fun part of the creation. Or I know like Atomic, I know you're plotting right now. I'm like, plotting is so much fun. That's awesome. I think my rough drafts probably combine the zero draft and the rough draft format a little bit, definitely for sure. When I think about what I'm trying to accomplish with a rough draft, I'm trying to accomplish building the foundation for the world. I want to get a sense of what the world feels like once I'm done through my rough draft. I want to get a sense of my main character and my supporting characters. They don't usually I spend the majority of the time fleshing out my hero, my protagonist, and then in the following drafts I'll focus on further developing the other characters. What else do I want from a rough draft? I want my core story to be sound in terms of the plot. Now, I know in future drafts I can go back and I can fine tune plot points that don't make sense, but I think something that I tend to do a good job with is in terms of like plotting the narrative and the overall story. And then things that I'll go back and add is like clues that like lead the reader to think one thing's going to happen early in the story, or sometimes they're called red herrings. That's another fun thing that I'll do in rough drafts. Yeah. So those are a couple things that I'll go through. What else is another thing that I see new writers struggle with? A lot of times I hear new writers will say that they don't feel very creative sometimes. I'll hear that. I'm of the mindset that everyone out there has creativity. especially writers. I think it's just recognizing like what does creativity mean to you, and then what you're trying to draw, how you want to bring that to life. Creativity for one person could be fantasy, dragons and elves and scarecrows and whatever. Creativity for another person could be their epic experience of the time that they climbed Mount Everest. Two completely different types of stories doesn't make either less creative. I think sometimes that can be easily mistaken when we think that creativity has to translate into fantasy, sci-fi, or one of those types of genres. So I hope that throughout my journey we can help inspire creativity together. All right. Let's see. If you've found, let me pull this up. So, if you found any value out of our writing sprints or the conversations today, don't forget to tap that like, follow, or subscribe button. Let me know that you found value from today's stream. I got some good stuff with my writing sprint. I kind of need to think about what I want specifically to happen to Pebble next, and we'll come back to that tomorrow. Let's see. Tomorrow's show, I will be same time, same place. Let's see. Same time, same place. 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, Mountain Standard Time. 2 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. So I'll be here tomorrow. Feel free to join. And yeah, awesome. And Atomic, once again, thanks for the music. I enjoyed it. That's super cool. I'll probably try using that music for a little while. That's fun. Gave me definitely some good inspiration. Uh, awesome. And I think with that, we've accomplished some good stuff. So remember, be kind, be creative, and be confident. I'm Kauffman, and I'm going to catch you on the morrow.